Apple closing out a record in yesterday's session after the company unveiled its push into AI at its annual developers conference. Joining us now, Wamsi Mohan, Bank of Securities senior IT hardware analyst. Good to have you on in studio on set, Wamsi. There was much anticipation, and I think it could have gone, I guess, either way, because the perception was that Apple was lagging, and what was the strategy going to be? Somehow, players, market participants, whomever, listened to what Apple had to say and were really impressed with the strategy.
Yeah, Joe, I was there at the developers conference a couple days ago, and it was a very different event from the past events I've been to. And it's different because usually the focus is, here's iOS, here's TV OS, Watch OS, and what they do is talk about all the features. This time around, they kind of segued into AI at the second half of it. The first half of it was the typical update, and then they said, well, here's what Apple Intelligence is going to do on top of all these OS updates that we've got. And it was really different in the sense that you could see a palpable difference in the reaction of everyone over there saying, oh, wow, look, I mean, this is really interesting. There are two things that I think really jumped out. One is the fact that you need newer devices to upgrade and use these features. And the second thing I would say is that when you look at what Apple is doing, they're saying we're going to do this from a privacy-centric perspective, but they're also saying we're going to use the cloud to do it. And I think the combination of those two things makes it very different for Apple compared to other companies who are trying to do this.
The 230 price target.
Yes.
When did you had that before this all happened?
We did. We actually were, we named Apple a top pick back when it was in the mid 160s, and that was the first time we called it a top pick, and that was pre-earnings, it was pre-this, and we actually upgraded the stock earlier this year. Our view has been that the market's really not looking at Apple the right way when it comes to AI, right? So search was similar. You got companies that do a lot of CapEx investments, and yet the monetization is actually done by engaging users with that technology. AI is sort of similar, right? Apple sits in this very coveted position where you've got this massive install base of users that are super attractive to every technology. So whether it's app developers that are going to sit and build on all these 8 different LLMs, or whether it be on top of the App Store, there's a monetization model by connecting the consumers to this technology. So Apple's really more of a distribution business in some ways. So it's not making the CapEx investments on the one hand to all these super large LLMs, but seeing the benefit of that and consumerization of that technology is what really Apple's really good at and able to.
Would you be upset and would you not like the stock as much if they actually were investing lots of money in AI?
I would say that it would depend on, what ultimately that strategy leads to, right? So, I mean, we can talk about high CapEx investments in things like memory, right? Memory is a commodity. Will LLMs become a commodity? They could be, right? So, would you want Apple to go and invest in memory? No. I mean, that would not be great. So, the question is, how do you monetize that ultimately? And if Apple, the thing about Apple that's a little different is that they're so good at vertical integration. So when you take everything and line it up from, hardware, semiconductors, software, services, that makes a difference. So it'll really depend on where those investments are.
Who do you think is going to be currently paying for the OpenAI partnership? Yeah, good.
Yeah, Andrew, great question, right? We get this all the time, and we actually think that Apple will be getting paid. And
you think OpenAI is going to be paying Apple?
In some form, right? I mean, they have a different balance sheet from the likes of Google, so you just can't sort of say, we'll write you a check on TAC-based, which is $20 billion a year. Different balance sheet, different probably monetization model. Could be revenue share, could be based on the usage.
So my question, though, is you believe, it can't be usage. I can't imagine that they're going to pay them on usage because they don't have a business model on the other side. So the question is this a lead gen product? I mean, the only model I can even imagine at the moment, and maybe there's a different model, is that it somehow is a lead gen business for OpenAI, and if there's any economics at all, somehow Apple is taking a piece of anybody who starts on the phone and decides to upgrade effectively to the paid product that OpenAI is offering?
Well, Andrew, look, I mean, the monetization models can be multifold, right? So if you say that there are developers that are sitting on top of OpenAI, where are those developers ultimately going to sell their app or product, right? So the distribution model becomes one of Apple. So the developers are making money because you've got consumer base that is effectively sending you all this information that you're then using to serve those developer base back, right? So the monetization model from a developer perspective is that. The monetization model...
But they don't have to have a direct relationship with OpenAI for that to happen. People can go develop apps that use ChatGPT and other services that underlie them that have nothing to do with Apple. Apple has nothing to do with that.
Well, so on the technology side, yes. On the distribution side, no, right? Like you still need it from a distribution perspective.
There will be no information exchange where OpenAI gets access to something about Apple users, whether that's on a personal level or whether that's on a large.
But Apple has just told the public that they won't be doing that. So I don't understand what you're talking about.
I think you'll have a dual model where you will share information when it comes to the fact that you have an opt-in, right? So if you're opting into the tech, then there can be information sharing. If you opt into the tech, also there can be.
Did you not hear the presentation I heard?
No, it was the same presentation.
Okay, and what did they say in the presentation?
Well, you've got sort of an OpenAI ChatGPT where you can opt into the tech, whether to use it or not, right? And then when you do opt in, then you can either be already on a subscription, in which case information is shared, or you can be not on a subscription, in which case information is not shared, right? Is that consistent with your understanding of it?
Yeah, so you're arguing that because people are going to use it more often, that information is going to be shared if you were using the paid product. But the majority of people are going to get access to a 4.0 without paying, which means they're also not sharing.
Well, correct. While that be true, I think that there is a developer ecosystem, right, that still needs to tap into a consumer base. So the monetization model can be based on usage of what the resources are that are being driven because those developers now have access to a consumer base that is driving that traffic. Right, so you've got a traffic component that is causing the developer to drive more usage. So it's not clear, Andrew, on what exactly the monetization model is.
That costs OpenAI and Microsoft more money.
Absolutely, it does. Yeah, it does. Absolutely, 100%. And when it does, I mean, it also means that there can be information ultimately that they use and generate. It's sort of similar to search in many ways, right? In search, you've had this whole notion of Google paying Apple $20 billion.
Right.
That's happening because the monetization model is ad-based, right? We don't know what the monetization model entirely at OpenAI's, ultimately long-term is going to be. I mean, if it was ad-based, you could draw a very similar analogy. If it's not ad-based, and if it's a different monetization model, which I think, like Sam Altman has said, in his blogs, that it's not really an ad-based model, there's a different monetization model. That monetization model could be coming, from a developer standpoint to monetization on usage of resources, right? And if that is the case, then the usage is very much driven by the fact that which is the app that's going to use it.
We got to run, but someone has to pay for the usage.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. And I think that
if Apple's not paying them for the usage and the customer's not paying them for the usage, there's nobody else. And then you're saying the developer is paying them for the usage, but the developer doesn't have to do that through Apple.
Correct. Correct. Yes, that developer does not have to do that through Apple.